The Vampire Symphony is a locally made film that I completed in 2013 with the help of some very gracious and talented local actors. It's basically a retelling of Dracula by Bram Stoker. It's influenced by the novel, but it's also heavily influenced by a lot of the films that have been made throughout the decades, in particular the 1978 version of Nosferatu and the 1992 version by Francis Ford Coppola, mainly for its theatricality and style and storytelling. The idea for the Vampire Symphony came while I was sitting in a theater watching a stage version of Dracula. While it was well done, I found that the script itself was just very big on dialogue and not very big on theatricality. And I'm sitting there kind of getting lost in all the words and thinking, I really want something theatrical. I want something spooky. I want some creepy music. I want fog. I want vampires. So I thought to myself, if I ever did something on stage with Dracula, I'd like it to be big on theatricality and low on dialogue. And while I was sitting there with that idea, I thought, well, could we do something on stage that had no dialogue whatsoever? So then the idea of doing a stage pantomime set to original music was the genesis for what became the Dracula Symphony. And in 2010, I took the idea to some students at Simon's High School where I teach, and they weren't quite sure what I was doing at first, but the more we rehearsed it and the more I created the music and brought it in, they started to get an idea of what I was envisioning, and we had a stage play called the Dracula Symphony. That kind of sat on the back burner for about 3 years while I upgraded my education and did a few other pursuits. I was heavily inspired by some local filmmakers who made a film from scratch with no budget, and I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So I had the costumes, I had the music, I just needed a cast and some locations, and I contacted a few people and made a few inquiries, and before I knew it, we were jumping on this project and looking to complete something which I then called the Vampire Symphony. One of my biggest worries was finding enough people to play all the different roles. I didn't want to work with students again, but a couple of the students that were in the production had graduated. So I contacted the two young women who played Mina and Lucy and asked them if they'd be interested in the project, and they were, and I was quite happy because they were quite good in those roles. They had the look, they knew the part, they knew the music, they had the music in their heads. So I was quite happy to bring them on board. As for the rest of the cast, I basically looked to the local theater community. A lot of friends I had made over the years through different theater groups. Also some bandmates and just some old friends I hadn't talked to in a while. Also some new people came on board, such as Joel Ross, who played the role of Dracula. He had heard about the project through someone and contacted me. I had never met Joel, but anyway, we chatted, and when I took one look at him, I thought, yeah, you'd make such a great Dracula. The original idea was not to show Dracula at all. We would sort of sense his presence rather than see him. But once I looked at Joel, I said, yeah, we need to bring him on board. And there's many scenes where we don't see his entire face. We see maybe his eyes or his mouth or the back of his head or just his shape kind of moving through the mist. I was also quite happy to bring on board Ian Esty, who plays the part of Renfield. And I wasn't quite sure if I was actually going to put Renfield in this particular story, although he is an integral part of the Dracula story. He had no idea what we were doing. I brought him on board, just a one afternoon shoot. I said, you play this crazed lunatic in a straitjacket, you eat spiders and flies, and in the end, Dracula kills you. And I was just amazed at how much he got into that character. And anyone who's seen the film, they comment on the degree to which Ian took on that role and just really pulled it off with such dedication and such believability. I always saw the Dracula story as 3 distinct chapters, and that's how we came to put the 3 webisodes together. The first one focuses on an Englishman named Jonathan Harker, and he's been sent to Transylvania to meet this Count Dracula, or in my version, Prince Dracula, and close the deal on some properties that Dracula is buying in England. What he doesn't realize is that he's putting himself into the vampire's lair. He's sending a vampire into England where there's lots of fresh blood, and Jonathan himself becomes a victim of three lady vampires who live in Dracula's castle. The second main part of the Dracula story focuses on Lucy, and Lucy is a young Englishwoman who becomes Dracula's first victim when he comes to London. She falls prey to him. She is attacked many, many times, bitten many times. In the end, Lucy becomes a vampire herself. Her family is quite distraught at her death, but Van Helsing is a little bit skeptical whether she's truly dead. Lucy then does come back resurrected as a vampire, and she terrorizes the community, attacking small children. At this point in time, Van Helsing realizes that he has to stake Lucy through the heart in order for her soul to have peace and not become the undead wandering the earth for centuries as Dracula does. The third and final installment of Dracula focuses on the Mina character, and she had already lost her fiancé Jonathan. He went to Transylvania and never returned. So she has that loss and also that no sense of closure. She has no idea what happened to him and why he didn't return. And also losing her cousin Lucy, not only once but twice. Now Mina herself becomes victim to Dracula. And by this time, Van Helsing and some of the other men characters have started to piece together things and wondered, maybe this new mysterious Count Dracula who's in town, maybe he has something to do with all of this. And as they put the pieces together, they become vampire hunters, and they have to basically kill Dracula before Mina herself becomes a vampire. One of the most special moments for me was when I assembled the cast for the funeral scene. And I think with the exception of Dracula and Lucy, I had almost every character in the film in one place at the same time. And I realized that I had an amazing cast. They were willing to give up a beautiful spring night. I had friends that I see quite often. I had some friends that I hadn't seen in quite a number of years. But it was great that they all believed in this project and they were willing to give up their time. So that was a night that I especially remember as being very grateful to that amazing and wonderful cast. The music is a conglomerate of all kinds of ideas, some of them very gentle, some of them very haunting, some of them very jumpy and theatrical. I borrowed little pieces of bits from Pink Floyd, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Iron Maiden, Jethro Tull, Black Sabbath. There's pieces that are very gentle and flowing, and there's other pieces that are very aggressive. So I took this hodgepodge of original and borrowed ideas, and I sat down each night in my project studio and kind of in my mind thought about what the scene looked like, and then using whatever instruments I needed, guitars, keyboards, percussion, bass, came up with a soundtrack by which all these images lay themselves upon it, and the music in a way becomes the dialogue, because we never hear what these characters are saying to each other. So the music then really is the soundtrack for the film. Special effects were certainly a challenge, and with no budget at all, I used a combination of some digital effects as well as some kind of cleverly made effects. One I'm most proud of is the staking through the heart, and we actually see blood pumping out of the wound. And that's nothing more than just running a tube through the stake. It's flat on the bottom, and we just run a tube through the stake, pumping this blood concoction, which is basically chocolate syrup and cherry flavored coloring or something. And so as the stake is lying on the flesh of the chest, I'm just kind of pumping, and all this liquid comes oozing out. And it's a very simple effect, but I think it was very effective. I really enjoyed the part where Shelley is being staked. And she just took a huge mouthful of the mixture, and I said, just cough. And she coughs, and it goes everywhere. She was full of it, and the coffin was full of it. The costume got ruined. But it was a great theatrical moment. Some other special effects were mainly digital effects, and were kind of limited, but Adobe Premiere does have some nice blending and ghosting effects. So it was a matter of learning the software, finding some online effects, and doing what I could. A lot of it was smoke and mirrors, trickery, editing, whatever you could do to try to make it look a little bit, supernatural and beyond the normal. So special effects were certainly a challenge in this film project. Locations were also a big challenge. Any scene that's dark, we shot on the stage at the high school, mainly because it was a big empty space. The walls were black. I had lots of room to set up cameras and lighting and whatever. So any of those dark scenes were shot there. We certainly went out into the field. We used the cemetery, the Fernhill Cemetery, as well as the crypt, which is actually homage to Louis B. Mayer. It's his crypt. And the cemetery by the refinery. We used the park and Douglas Avenue for the funeral scene, and just another handful of exterior locations. My big worry was finding an interior location, because this is set turn of the century, not our century, but about 100 years ago. And I needed a house. So I was in my friend Kim Dykman's house, and I was looking around, and I thought, with the exception of the odd digital clock and big screen TV, it really had that feel of an older Victorian home. The furnishings and the decor were just perfect. So I approached Kim very gingerly and told her what I wanted to do. She was more than welcoming. We bombarded her house on several weekends. We used bedrooms, the parlor, the dining room, the kitchen, the stairways. We used every inch of the house, and she was more than accommodating. She made snacks for the actors. She gave them bottles of water. This could not have been done without Kim and Andrew Dykman. They really were the backbone behind doing this project, and I can't thank them enough. So the house became almost a character in itself. I was so excited at the completion of this project. There were literally hundreds of hours of recording music, editing video, and in October of 2013, we had our big moment. We had a live screening with an audience, and I think for the most part they liked it. We had 2 screenings, and with this approaching Halloween in 2016, I thought it'd be a great idea to, excuse the pun, but resurrect the film and put it online, because there's a lot of people that hadn't seen it. They wanted to see it, and they asked me about it from time to time. So we have 3 episodes coming up, October 28th, 29th, and 30th. And I certainly hope that the audience enjoys the Vampire Symphony as much as I have enjoyed creating it and making it and putting it out there. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing from friends all over, because the first time we did it was only local, but this time it's worldwide. So I look forward to hearing from people from far and wide who saw the film. If you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, don't say anything. Anyway, my name is Jeff Scott, October 2016. Thank you for watching. We're actually going to use quite a bit of blood in there. Okay, so this time we're going to shoot it. Now then, I have to wash my hands because I'm not breaking the camera, so just give me a second. Do you need more syrup, Dennis?
I think it's okay. I think it's okay for what's
You got enough there?
Oh my gosh, that looks real.
I know, it looks so good.
It's cool.
Yeah, I think there's enough here, Jeff.
You sure? Let's put another
There's
syrup in.
even blood splatter. Oh, too cool.
I'd say just for if you want to go with kind of realism, don't blow consistently. Wait until you see the spatter, and then stop, and then splatter, and then stop, and then like 3 big blows, and that way it'll look like the heart that's like pumping.
Okay, I got you.
Okay,
That'll get
let's put it in there again. I want to get it in position because I want to use more. I want to use syrup on the base of it.
We're dripping like crazy here.
Yeah, just put it on her chest.
Thanks, guys. Am I supposed to be doing anything?
Yeah, well, what the main thing is, I don't want it going in your eyes, so you should have your eyes back. Wash my hands again. Oops. That's going to get all down to the costume, which we have to wash.
Yeah, it's already covered in the costume.
Yeah, okay. Too much more than I wanted to put in there. Okay, I gotta give my hands another rinse. Stand by, stand by.
Yes, sir. And you don't see that too? Cool.
So the main thing is, Lucy, you've been staked already, so the stake is halfway in, right?
Okay.
So it should, the head should be back, eyes, teeth clenched, eyes closed, okay? Good, so we're gonna shoot another one. Action. That'll do.